Welcome to Security Weekly News, show for the week, October 8, 2023. We have Google, 23andMe, Facebook, GitHub's secret scanning, MGM reports, Grindr, Jason Wood, and more news.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. AI, accelerated cloud adoption, and hybrid work are fundamentally shifting how business gets done. The old way of securing your people, apps, and data doesn't work and scale anymore. To stay ahead, today's organizations need to reimagine their security and networking infrastructure with a cloud-first, unified SASE architecture. Join Palo Alto Networks and leading technologists from across the globe for SASE Converge 2023, a two-day virtual experience, November 15th and 16th. Revealing how SASE powered by advanced AI can drive better security and networking outcomes. Register today at securityweekly.com/Palo Alto.
Hi folks, I'm Adrian Sanabria, the host of Enterprise Security Weekly. Every week, we interview the most interesting folks we can find talking about the most pressing cybersecurity issues and challenges facing the enterprise today. Myself and my co-hosts have each been in the industry for decades, long enough to see the patterns in the industry and explore where trends are going. In addition to enterprise challenges, we also follow the vendor space, the most interesting security startups emerging, technology and product trends, all of the most interesting funding and acquisition announcements. Finally, we love to discuss the latest trends in tech and how they'll impact cybersecurity. If you're wondering how the latest in AI, quantum computing, cloud, and DevOps is going to impact security a few years down the road, you should follow the Enterprise Security Weekly podcast.
Welcome back. I'm Aaron Leyland, and this is Security Weekly News, episode 332. And in the corner of my eye on Slack, I can see both Sam and Rennie are watching. Nervous or what? Hope I don't mess it up, guys. Okay, first story of the week. Google bug bounty program expands to Chrome V8 Google Cloud. So Google Cloud initiates V8 CTF, a capture the flag challenge targeting vulnerabilities in Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine, inviting exploit writers, you're right there, to identify and exploit issues. Contestants, as they call them, are encouraged to pinpoint both known and new zero-day vulnerabilities with a prerequisite of exploiting stability. Rewards for valid submissions start at $10,000, and those discovering a zero-day exploit may be eligible for an additional reward up to $180,000. Sounds okay, actually, through the Google Chrome Vulnerability Reward Program. When it comes to Google, they could do better. But anyway, Google doing something, but could do better. Okay, Credential Harvesting campaign targets unpatched NetScaler instances. Cybersecurity professionals are alert as threat actors exploit a critical vulnerability, CVE 2023-3519, in unpatched Citrix NetScaler instances in a Credential Harvesting campaign. The automatic campaign, which has been active since at least June 23, involved the injection of a PHP web shell and custom HTML code to fetch and run malicious JavaScript aimed at stealing user credentials. IBM urges organizations to promptly patch NetScaler gateways and undertake thorough remediation efforts, such as resetting credentials and passwords, which obviously means it's quite bad, right? So do that. The campaign highlights the importance of timely patch management in cybersecurity defenses. Myself, aggressive patching is normally one of the first things I look at in a new company. So please think about that. Okay, so 23andMe scraping incident leaked data on 1.3 million users of Ashkenazi and Chinese descent. So 23andMe faced a significant data scraping incident where hackers access sensitive user information of 1.3 million individuals of Ashkenazi. I can't pronounce that properly, sorry. But what I will tell you, if you did not know, that makes up about 80% of the Jewish population, and also people of Chinese descent. Later offering it on the dark web, the company asserted that unauthorized access was achieved via recycled login credentials from other data breaches and not from a breach of their systems. Hopefully that's true. Emphasizing that threat actors scrape data from DNA, relatives profiles, which users opted into sharing. While 23andMe has engaged forensic experts and is working with law enforcement, critics highlight vulnerabilities and urge the firm, which has been in regulatory crosshairs recently, to address alleged security loopholes and enhance user data protection mechanisms. It is really interesting there how this data has been so compartmentalized in the two flavors of people. So it'll be interesting looking into that later, how that was actually siloed. Okay, so CDW data to be leaked next week after negotiations with Lockbit break down. CDW, a major IT reseller, is facing a potential data leak by ransomware group Lockbit after purportedly inadequate ransom payment negotiations broke down. According to a spokesperson with the alias Lockbit SUP, the tactics and authenticity of Lockbit's claims can oscillate, as exhibited in the past interactions with victims like Royal Mail International and Tails, two big players there, illustrating the necessity for fortified cybersecurity and strategic response planning. We should all have offline backups, and we know it. Okay, Facebook's official page hacked, demand release of Pakistani PM Imran Khan. Facebook's official page experienced a notable compromise on October 6, 2023, with unexpected posts, including a demand for the release of former Pakistan PM Imran Khan and criticisms towards the BCCI, appearing on its timeline. The occurrence accentuates the perpetual importance of robust cybersecurity practices, such as utilizing strong, unique passwords and enabling two-factor authentication, even for entities with advanced security. And Facebook can always do better. Too many stories about Facebook. NSA and CISA, red and blue teams share top 10 cybersecurity misconfigurations. Through NSA and CISA red and blue team assessments, as well as through the activities of NSA and CISA Hunt and Incident Response Team, the agencies identified the following 10 most common network misconfigurations. Number 1, default configurations of software and applications. Then, improper separation of user administrator privilege, insufficient internal network monitoring, lack of network segmentation, poor patch management, bypass of system access controls, weak or misconfigured multi-factor authentication methods, insufficient access control lists on network shares and services, poor credential hygiene, and finally, unrestricted code execution. I love a list, although I do tend to favor the SIS Top 18 and the OS Top 10. There is definitely nothing in this list that should come as a shock to you. It is all Cyber 101. Although the good thing about this list is the article is pretty detailed and definitely worth the skim, and that's over there in the show notes. Okay. GitHub's secret scanning feature now covers AWS, Microsoft, Google, and Slack. GitHub has enhanced its secret scanning feature to perform fidelity checks of exposed tokens for prevalent services like AWS, Microsoft, Google, and Slack, aiding in swift remediation through identifying active tokens. Initially available for GitHub tokens, this feature will expand to additional tokens in the future and is easily configurable via repository settings. If this sounds helpful to you, go read the article. Okay, MGM Resorts Las Vegas, as if we haven't heard enough about them, area operations to take $100 million hit from the recent cyber attack. MGM Resorts anticipates in quarter three the 100 million hit to the significant cyber attack that obviously affected its Las Vegas operations, with additional costs approximated at $10 million for tech consultations, legal fees, and external advisory. They definitely could have had me for cheaper. Look me up. MGM Resort says it proposes sufficient, or it possesses even, it just makes me laugh, this, it's like Saul types, anyway, I'll come to it in a minute. Says it possesses sufficient insurance to offset the financial impact of the attack. I will definitely be interested to find out what the payment is they receive, if anything, for something from the outside. Maybe, possibly looks like it might be their fault. And hint of the day, relying on insurance would never be high up on my planning for ransomware, and we all need to do better when it comes to offline backups. Okay, criminal gangs now deploying ransomware within 24 hours of hacking victims. SecureWorks reports a concerning acceleration in ransomware deployment by cybercrime groups, observing incidents where malware was executed within 24 hours of initial system compromise. This, according to them, is notably reduced from a medium dwell time of 4.5 days in the previous year. Swift attack methodologies may reflect cybercriminals' efforts to mitigate detection risks, pivoting towards simpler, more rapidly enacted operations despite their ongoing high-risk impact. And I hope that sort of stories like this give us a kick up the bum, so maybe we'll all act like we've already been compromised. Today I haven't wrote that much about Jason Wood, because all I can think about is how wonderful he looks after he's just jumped off Microsoft Flight Simulator to come and give us the professional commentary. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Aaron. Glad to hear you like my headset. So, this weekend, the world shifted its focus from Ukraine to Israel and the conflict that's erupted there due to the attacks by Hamas that started on Saturday. Definitely not, I mean, you can't help but feel terrible as you watch the news and see what the impacts are to people and just the fear, the death, the destruction that's going on down there. As part of this war, though, activist groups around the world have decided that they want to join in and on behalf of either Hamas or that of Israel and kind of, make their mark on this. Now, Aaron covered on Friday, interesting timing enough, the recommendations or the proposed rules by the International Committee of the Red Cross for those engaging in hacktivist and disruptive attacks. So, we have that release, and then today, now we're seeing news articles that are covering the activities of hacktivists responding to a war that has suddenly erupted. The Register and Security Week both reported on these attacks, and they listed a number of the groups that are involved in them. According to one LinkedIn post cited by Security Week, Anonymous Sudan, one of the groups, executed its attacks less than 1 hour after Hamas started firing rockets. And they were stating that, yep, we're targeting early warning systems. And according to the cyberdaily.au, they were hoping to impact the availability and functionality of the Iron Dome system there that protects Israel from rocket attacks. So they've also apparently been targeting Jerusalem Post and have had some degree of success there in taking the site down, probably with some kind of denial of service attack. So yeah, they've immediately launched into this as soon as the attacks began. Killnet another group has publicly stated that they are attacking Israeli government systems because Israel betrayed Russia by supporting Ukraine instead of backing Russia on their invasion of Ukraine. They've stated that they're targeting only government systems, and they've called for an end to targeting civilians in general. Both groups, however, are believed to be Russian-sponsored teams. In spite of Anonymous Sudan's name, they are, that's the. There have been some signs that these groups cooperate with each other and share some resources. Though Anonymous Sudan denies this and says, nope, they're actually just a hacktivist group working out of Sudan itself. The Register also cites Team Insane, Mysterious Team Bangladesh, and Libyan Ghosts and Salet as targeting Israeli targets. Most of these targets are websites that are being hit with some kind of denial of service attack. And Security Week commented on Cyber Avengers, who said that they were going after the power grid or a power grid organization in Israel, but just targeted its website and took down their website. On the pro-Israel side, you've got the Indian Cyber Force taking credit for attacking Palestinian government websites. Now, it sounds significant when you say, oh, we're attacking a power grid organization and we're going to go after them. But most of these it's kind of telling. What they did is they took down their website, and so most of these attacks, that's really what's going on here. We're taking down, their point of presence to interact with people, contacting and looking for information or whatnot about the organization. Jerusalem Post getting news, for example. So really, the attacks aren't terribly significant. In fact, I think the Register said that mostly within an hour or two, the attacks are mediated. Though Anonymous Sudan going after the early warning systems is a notable exception, as that one could result in the loss of life. And if they did manage, if they were successful in disrupting the Iron Dome and warnings being sent out to people telling them to take cover. I've talked about cyber war before, and mostly I was focused on state-sponsored groups. So it's uncertain whether these groups are actually supported by nations or not. Killnet and Anonymous Sudan are named as two possible groups that are supported by the Russians, but other groups are newer and much more unknown. And, it sounds like these hacktivist groups aren't really accomplishing a whole lot. They're just kind of muddying the waters and, launching denial of service attacks and the Register's subtitle made a comment here about new outfits eager to raise their profile, and that was a quote. So hey, here's something we can jump on and brag a little bit about what we're doing and do some stuff. So I'm kind of curious. Do they really care about the groups that are involved in this war at all, or are they just using an excuse to polish up their reputation some? If Anonymous Sudan actually did interfere with the early warnings system and missile defense, and Israel believes that lives were lost because of it, then I would expect the Israeli government to remember that and look for opportunities to return the favor. By attempting to put Israeli lives at risk, the attackers are inviting reprisals against themselves, which is one of the things that the Red Cross was concerned about, was these hacktivist groups making themselves military targets by doing this sort of thing. Regardless of the proposed rules around governing hacktivism and their effectiveness of the attacks, honestly, this has long been a facet of conflict between different nations and groups. Anyone with an internet connection can perform some kind of attack on behalf of some party they sympathize with, or at least say that that's what they're doing. So while we're seeing this play out here, we're seeing that they're not getting much done. This is just the Israel-Hamas war is just the latest evolution in that, or episode rather, of this occurring. So, it doesn't seem like they're accomplishing very much. It's just, people are chiming in and getting to get their 15 minutes of fame, I guess. So with that, let's go back over to the man of strong opinions and even stronger beverages, Mr. Aaron Leyland.
Thank you, Jason. I think where you're coming from there, it's like when it comes to hacktivism, if you live in a country where you're more or less openly supporting what the government is doing, then it's just a free ride into hacking. Now you can get involved in a DDoS, you can get involved in Metasploit, and by way of numbers and by way of a lot of these systems not having a huge maturity in cyber, the hacking threshold for hacktivism is quite low. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I remember years ago when LulzSec was doing their thing, and they were encouraging people to join in on this. And so come here and download low orbit ion cannon, low IIC.
Oh yeah,
and launch denial of service attacks and stuff like that. And just kind of glossing over the fact that you're doing this from your home network, and there's no OPSEC here whatsoever. Anybody can do this and go full send on it. So yeah, I mean, it seems like, hey, this is an opportunity for us to bolster our rep. And one aspect of the e-crime type of world, where you're getting access to these forums and stuff like that, to tools and things like that, is having some kind of reputation and looking like you're a legitimate crook. So, I could be really cynical and say, yeah, this is just a marketing opportunity for them, and they're taking advantage of it. So,
thank you, Jason. Yeah, I think we're just going to have more and more of this, and I think honestly, hacktivism's just going to get bigger and bigger, and with the red cost more or less giving rules on it, it kind of legitimizes the whole thing. So maybe it drops the threshold of the type of people that might want to get involved in this, because they're like, well, if the red costs have rules on it, maybe it's not so bad. But at the end of the day, it is breaking the law. Hopefully people don't get involved in that, whether it's for a good cause or not. Thank you. And finally, privacy nonprofits called on FTC to investigate Grindr's data practices. The Electronic Privacy Information Center, EPIC, what a cool name for not a cool place, has lodged a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, urging an investigation into the LGBTQ plus dating app Grindr, regarding potential illegal storage and disclosure of users' sensitive data such as HIV and vaccination status. Quite important then. The complaint amplifies allegation from Grindr's own former chief privacy officer, with the coolest name ever, Ronald DeJesus, suggesting that the app retains users' private data, post-account deletion, and inadequately restricts employee access to user information, contradicting its own privacy policy, or whatever. Historical and contemporary incidents of Grindr's data handling controversies include fines and reported instances of data selling, not doing very well, Grindr, highlighting recurring concerns in the platform's privacy and data management practices. EPIC underscores the substantial implications of such potential privacy breaches, especially considering the vulnerabilities of not openly out LGBTQ plus users. Okay. Whether you're using Grindr, Tinder, or doing your cyber tasks, make sure you always put a wrapper around your tools. That is all from me this week. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Dr. Doug, for allowing me to fill in. And you will have Dr. Doug back with the news on Friday, and myself with the professional commentary. Peace out, cyber people.